Okay, everybody, I am so excited today because I am joined by Diane Guerrero, aka Crazy Jane, aka Miranda, aka Baby Doll, aka Hammerhead, aka Silver Tongue, aka Scarlet Harlot, aka Flit, aka Karen, aka Penny fucking Farthing. How are you doing, Diane?
Oh my God, I'm doing so great. Hearing you name all of those personas just brought me back somewhere. Um,
Yeah,
so
it's
um,
funny, Diane, because with my intro, every time I interview someone, I do the AKAs whoever they play, and when I saw I was interviewing you, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a long one.
no, it's so cool. It actually it makes me feel so proud of Jane for getting through all those changes and getting through everything that she's been through the last
Yeah,
season.
yeah, absolutely. So I have to ask you, Diane, right off the bat, because it's kind of this mysterious thing that Abigail Shapiro kind of hinted at, but could you give us a little insight into like what happened with production being shut down due to the corona pandemic?
Yeah, it was so, I mean, we knew that some studios were shutting down, but we really didn't know what that meant. And we really just had this one more episode to go. And when it happened, we were so crushed. We were almost done and they just kind of cut the lights out. And so we had to, scramble and go home and kind of wonder if the series was going to be finished, if the fans were going to be able to see season two. Like, that was still up in the air. So that was our biggest concern, was that, we really wanted our audience to get to see second season.
Yeah, and I'm happy that you guys still went and released the show, because I feel like even though episode 10 didn't get to fully finish filming and come out, episode 9 I thought left on a really fun cliffhanger, and I think it left at a good spot, so it still works. And my question to you, because there's so much Miranda backstory in this episode, and it takes place in 1969, so I was wondering if you can just kind of get us into the headspace of Miranda at this swinger party and exactly where her head's at in that last moment before she faints and transitions to Crazy Jane being awoken.
Yeah, I think that it was, I mean, you have to understand that Miranda came to Kay's rescue almost right at the beginning, after Kay experienced so much abuse. And Miranda got to experience that abuse with Daddy, right, with Kay's father. And she liberated herself from that. And so once she gave her heart to this person, and anybody knows that when you have gone through sexual trauma or any kind of trauma, it's very hard to trust people. And Miranda had finally found someone who she felt could protect her, who she felt was someone very special in her life. And then to be betrayed in that way, I think was so soul crushing. And, in a way, I've experienced heartbreak in a way where you sometimes feel like you don't even know the person, like you've been lied to. And that feeling is so crushing. It could harden you in so many different ways, or it could take you in so many different ways. And for Miranda, it was, going somewhere in her mind or in her heart that she needed to close. And that's when Jane came about. Because Jane represented something completely different than Miranda. Miranda was hopeful. Miranda had hopeful love. And, Jane came in there sort of not wanting that to be her priority.
Right. So that makes complete sense. And going to that point, too, where you're saying that, you're delving into Miranda and that contrast you just put really well between her and Jane, I wonder, does Diane, the person, you stepped into this primary role as Miranda this season, which was really fun to watch you play that. But do you relate more to Miranda or Jane?
I think I relate to both, because I think that example that I just gave you there was me actually feeling that heartbroken in my life, and having, and sort of, I guess it's that feeling of wanting to start anew, of being even more closed. And I think I've gone through Miranda stages, and I've gone through Jane stages. I think I'm in a different stage right now, but
I love that.
I think I relate to both.
So being that you spent a lot of time in Miranda's headspace this season, and season 1, obviously a lot in Jane's, do you see which character to you is a more darker headspace you kind of had to go to as an actress?
I mean, yeah, I think Jane has to go through a very dark place. Because it's almost, she gets to a place of helplessness, because she sees that there's nothing else that she can possibly do, especially when Miranda, basically, when she admits to Miranda that she has to step down. That's so crushing for her. And I had to be in that even before the first, like definitely during the first season, and even in the first part of the whole second season, Jane was in a space where she didn't really know what to do, and she was sort of biding time until she could figure something out. So I think that Jane has really been in some of the darkest places for many of the personas.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And it's interesting too, because it's so exciting to see you take on all these different personas, especially because you're such an amazing actress. And I think what really sticks out to my acting from you is that you have that incredible gift that kind of, like I always say Mahershala Ali has really well, where you see it in their eyes. And I felt like in this episode when Miranda's on the bench talking to this guy, I felt that chill where like, I'm like, holy crap, like, is this a different person? Like, and that's applauding you, and it makes me uncomfortable in a good way. And I wonder,
that's
though.
So funny.
No, what were you saying?
I just keep getting that from my friends. Like, whenever Miranda comes on, they're just like, oh, like she gives me the creeps. Like, they're all thinking Miranda is just very creepy, and like they don't really know what her intentions are.
Yeah.
Which is, I think I did my job. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. I think what I was exploring there was just really just a person who was just trying to experience normalcy as much as she could, also quite guarded, but someone who was ready to give themselves a chance. And I think that that's what Miranda did. And what was so crushing about that whole arc was that she had finally given in to this possibility of something real. And she assured everybody in the underground that this was the right choice. And basically her letting everyone down in that way, especially in the way that she felt so abused, it almost broke her to the point where she couldn't face anyone anymore. And how she just felt she couldn't keep trying. So her coming back is super troubling for everyone. And it really throws everyone for, a loop, because they don't understand at this point who lives, who dies. Do you stay, do you stay dead forever, or now you can come back? And, there's a scene this season, I think it's 8 and 8, when I'm talking to Negative Man and I'm saying, I really don't know how this works.
Right.
I really don't know how this works. That's so troubling.
Yeah.
And I think it really shows you like a humanity of Jane, and even though she has all of these powers and all of these personas, you don't really have a grasp on what's going on. You're learning as you go. And that's very much like how we experience life.
Yeah, I think that's brilliantly said. And I wonder, having to tap into all these different characters you're mentioning, and you have such a grasp of their character motivations and stuff. Are you a method actor? Do you have a certain process to how you act? I'm very curious how you kind of go into your craft. Are you walking around like Miranda on set?
You know what? I think I tried doing that a little. I think I have to do that a little bit with each character, just so that I can get my body, my physicality into it, just so I can get in this space. Like let's say characters like Baby Doll and like Silver Tongue, I normally have to sort of jump in there just so I can get that energy. Right. Just so I can get that energy up, I try to do that. But I try not to make it too wild for folks. I don't want to scare the crew and everyone. But I think everyone understands that when I change like this, I'm pretty much going to be that character for the day, especially considering how many scenes I have. I will stay in character. But if I have to switch over, you have to be ready for that too. So you can't fully drown yourself in one person. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I love that. With you playing all these personas, do you find one most challenging, or like, is there like maybe a challenging tick about one of them that kind of frustrated you portraying?
In the beginning, I think it was hard to play Jane because she was in such a low place that it kind of transferred over a little bit onto me and to my mood, because I had to be, there wasn't much that she was saying. It was kind of very internal, and I don't know, it made me sad as well.
Sure.
And sort of be in a little bit of despair. But, Hammerhead sometimes can get me, in a funky place just because she's like the extreme of anger. Her attachment to anger is very tight. And sometimes it's hard for me to let go of that as well, because I also have weird attachments to anger.
Sure.
It's like, it's kind of every character speaks to maybe some or other feeling that I have, and if some are extreme, it can wake something up inside of me. But that's why I'm in therapy, and
Sure.
part of the work too is leaving set and leaving the character there.
Yeah.
And not taking it home with you. I've been doing a lot of practicing on that.
No, that's really admirable and also super important. And I think it's interesting too, because when you talk to other actors and actresses, this is the type of the role people absolutely dream of doing, because it has such a challenge to it, but it's fun because there's so many personalities you're taking on. But I wonder, from your angle, being in those shoes, how much of this part is fun and how much of it is like, kind of like you're saying, where there's stress there and it really is like work, because you come off as a hard worker. And I see it in your Instagram post. You mentioned that you kind of like have a hard working vibe to you. And I wonder, can you kind of just explain to us how much work even goes into a role like this?
Sure. It's mostly fun. To answer your question, it's mostly fun. Absolutely. And I express that energy on set sometimes, but like, even when I'm having too much fun, I have to always balance myself out and say, okay, like, these are just so many extreme emotions, because you're having to play so many different people, and you have to make sure that, each one is different,
Right.
Especially for the audience, and especially because sometimes you just see the character for like 5 seconds, and you have to make them memorable. And so my energy is mostly up, and it is so much fun because it's so challenging. But it is a lot of hard work. It's challenging on the mind and on, your heart. I think when doing a character like this, and especially someone who does suffer from mental health issues like I do,
Sure.
it's the lines get blurred a little bit. And so you start feeling a little manic, and you have a lot of energy to expel. And sometimes you're just like, okay, is this me working? Is this me? This is part of my job, or am I feeling too much? And I think all that is very challenging, aside from like, all of the hours that we have to work, because the scenes and the sets are so complicated. It takes a lot to get them done, and it's a lot of hours to be doing so much physical work as too. Like this show is very physical. We're superheroes after all, so we are like jumping and getting gooed with whatever explosion just happened. It's a lot, but it's a lot of fun, and it's super rewarding, and it's exactly what I needed as an actor at this very moment.
So my last serious question for you here, Diane, is you mentioned that you have mental health issues of your own. I was just wondering, because acting can be so therapeutic, is there some main thing you learned that helped your mental health from this role of playing Jane?
Absolutely. Like, just the dedication that this character has to protecting her little girl, to protecting like the core of yourself, of who you are, really, really spoke to me. And what I'm learning now, of course, is that what was Kay missing from her life? It was love. and a lot of, when we are traumatized as children or abused in that way, not just sexual, but also if you were abandoned, or if you grew up in an unstable home, in whichever way, that affects you. And that lack of love, not just in your own life, but like, if you don't have that in your own life, like when we look out into the world, the lack of love that there is in the world, you start to be sucked in by that. And so portraying Jane has been really helpful to me, because it's helped me see, those connections in my own life, and how my journey or what my end game is to love,
Right.
and to receive love and to give love. And so now I'm clearer and clearer on that as I move through these spaces within my own self, and getting the proper help that I need.
That is beautifully said, and I think that is awesome that you open up like that, and that will help a lot of people. So that's really cool, Diane.
I hope so. I hope Jane helps a lot of folks. I hope the whole show does. We're all dealing with our past traumas, and something that is, nothing to shy away from. It's nothing to be ashamed of. It's something that is part of you and beautiful. And as the show shows you, like, you can do so much with something that, that seemingly seems awful. You can turn that and actually use that for your own life, and you can help others as well.
Yeah. And yeah, I have nothing else to add because you just nailed it. So everyone take that in, write that down, hang it on your fridge. It's inspirational. It's exciting. My last question before you go, Diane, is in a Twitter Q&A for Doom Patrol, I have to ask this. Someone asked you, what DC character would you want to play in the future? And you said Jessica Cruz from Green Lantern. Just elaborate on that a little bit.
I played Jessica Cruz. I voiced her, and I think I'm the first person to voice her in an animated movie. And I just fell in love with her. I really fell in love with the character. I didn't really know much about the Green Lantern series, but what I learned, she's also a very deep character, just like Jane is, and has gone through so much. And she's badass. She's like so cool. The way they drew her, it looks like me. I just saw, DC did it. I didn't. They did it. They drew her. I saw her in myself. I saw myself in her. I'm like, that's it. This character should be mine.
Yes.
But I would love to play that character. She's a badass, and she's super, super deep.
That's exciting. Diane, it was a pleasure to speak with you today. Is there anything else in general you want to plug? I know you do a lot of philanthropy, advocacy for immigration reform. You're also an author. So anything in general you have coming up?
Well, I'm just urging people to stay vigilant. This is a very important time in our lives and in history. I think that it's important to read, to pay attention, to advocate for those who can't advocate for themselves. This is the big election year. I hope people are participating civically, not just voting, but making sure that they're educating themselves so that they can make smart decisions for their own lives and for like the state of the world. I mean, I think we're in a crisis,
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Diane, for joining me. Everyone, please watch a finale now of season 2 of Doom Patrol on HBO Max and DC Universe app. You can also catch Diane in Orange is the New Black, also Jane the Virgin, and check out her 2 memoirs. There's also a younger adult version you can read, and of course, follow her Instagram. It's great because she has a lot of really good stuff that's inspirational for great causes, and it's also fun behind the scenes stuff. Diane, I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.